Ladies and gentlemen, the way you think is either building your breakthrough or reinforcing your breakdown. And until you flip that internal switch, no external strategy will save you. So if you're ready to stop waiting and start becoming, then lean in. Because what we're about to uncover could be the turning point in your life. Let's begin. You think you're not good enough, and suddenly you start showing up small. You think you're not meant to succeed, and you stop taking risks. You think you're broken, and you unconsciously look for ways to prove it. Over time, those thoughts stop feeling like opinions and start feeling like truth. But they're not truth. They're mental habits. Habits that can be broken. Habits that can be rebuilt. Every time you tell yourself, this is just who I am, take a moment and ask, who told you that? Was it you? Or was it something someone else said that you internalized and kept on repeat until you believed it? Most of the limits people carry aren't real. They're inherited, they're imagined, they're self-imposed. And they all started with a single thought that was never questioned. Your identity isn't something you're born with. It's not set in stone. It's not written in your DNA or decided by your past. Your identity is built one thought at a time. Every belief you hold about yourself was once just a passing thought. But the thoughts you repeat, the ones you dwell on, the ones you allow to play on loop in your mind, those become your story. And that story becomes your identity. I want you to take a moment right now not to think about your job, your bank account, your relationship, or your circumstances, but to think about the power that lives between your ears. Because I'm here to tell you something that most people spend their whole lives missing. Change does not begin out there. It doesn't start when the economy shifts, or when someone gives you a shot, or when life finally gets easier. Change starts in one place and one place only, your mind. You don't have to believe everything you think. And you definitely don't have to keep thinking what doesn't serve you. Every day is a chance to rewire your mind, to install new patterns, to tell yourself a new story, because the story you believe becomes the life you live. You're not waiting to become someone. You're already becoming someone. The only question is, are you choosing your thoughts, or are they choosing you? Most people don't realize how powerful their attention is. They think their future is determined by their background, their circumstances, their education. But none of that defines the trajectory of your life the way your focus does. Two people can go through the same challenge. One focuses on the pain, the other on the lesson. One gets bitter, the other gets better. Same situation, different focus. Entirely different outcomes. What you focus on grows. That's not a cute saying. It's a law of life. Your energy, your attention, your mental bandwidth, whatever you give them to, that's what expands. Focus is not passive. It's not neutral. It's the steering wheel of your life. If you're not consciously controlling it, it's being hijacked by distractions, by fears, by someone else's agenda. And the direction your life takes will always reflect the direction of your dominant focus. Your brain is a powerful machine. It's listening to everything you say, even when you say it silently. If you constantly think you're not confident, guess what? You reinforce that story. If you keep saying you're not disciplined, not lovable, not smart enough, your mind gets to work proving that narrative true, because your brain loves consistency. It wants your reality to match your dominant thoughts. So it filters out opportunities, people, and ideas that don't align with the identity you've unknowingly programmed. Your focus shapes your thoughts, and your thoughts fuel your emotions. Those emotions influence your actions, and those actions build your habits. Your habits, they write your future. That's how powerful this is. You can't afford to focus on what's missing, what's wrong, what's broken, and expect to create a life of growth, power, and fulfillment. You can't stay fixated on fear and wonder why you're stuck. What you repeatedly give your attention to becomes your reality, whether you like it or not. But here's the good news. If your thoughts can shape your identity in a disempowering way, they can also shape it in a powerful, unstoppable, extraordinary way. You can think on purpose. You can decide what kind of person you want to be, and then begin feeding your mind the thoughts that match that version of you. Want to be confident? Start thinking confident thoughts. Want to be focused? Think like someone who finishes what they start. Want to lead, inspire, create, change your world? Then it begins with the thoughts you allow to take root in your mind. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You don't need a perfect plan, but you do need to discipline your focus. Decide what matters most. Decide what you want your future to feel like. Then direct your attention toward that daily, deliberately, obsessively. Because where your focus goes, your life flows. You become sharper, stronger, and more aware when your attention is aligned with your purpose. You can't control every outcome, but you can control what you give your mind to. And that choice every single day is the beginning of transformation. Whatever you feed with your focus will grow. So make sure you're growing the future you want to live in, not the one you're afraid of. If you focus on problems, you'll become a problem solver at best and a chronic complainer at worst. But if you focus on solutions, you train your brain to seek opportunity even in adversity. If you focus on what you can't control, you'll feel helpless. If you focus on what you can control, your attitude, your effort, your discipline, you'll feel unstoppable. There are opportunities around you right now, chances to rise, chances to change, but if your focus is locked on what's missing, you won't see them. You could walk right past the door that leads to your next breakthrough because you were too busy staring at the wall. And sometimes that wall is fear, sometimes it's self-pity, sometimes it's just noise, but whatever it is, it's not your future unless you keep feeding it your focus. If you tell yourself over and over, I'm not good at this, eventually it becomes part of who you believe you are, and the mind, being loyal to that belief, will find ways to act in alignment with it. You'll avoid opportunities, you'll resist challenges, you'll self-sabotage when things start going well, not because you're weak, but because your actions are trying to stay consistent with your belief. Everything you do, every habit you have, every decision you make, it all starts with a single thought. Not some massive event, not a life-altering breakthrough, just a thought. A whisper in your mind that says, I can or I can't. I am or I'm not. Most people don't realize the weight of what they think because thoughts feel small in the moment, but thoughts repeated long enough become beliefs. And once something becomes a belief, it moves from your head into your identity. Now you don't just think it, you live it. Every moment you give in to fear, you become more fearful. Every time you rise with courage, you become more bold. Every time you avoid responsibility, you become more passive. Every time you take ownership, you become more powerful. The compound effect is always at work. It doesn't care if you're aware of it or not. The person you are tomorrow is being formed by how you're showing up today. But it's not the truth. It's a decision that was made unconsciously. Maybe from something someone said to you. Maybe from a moment of failure you never forgot. Maybe from comparison or criticism, or just years of mental repetition. Whatever the source, that belief got rooted because the thought was never challenged. And once a belief takes root, it begins to shape your behavior. Automatically, subconsciously, you start taking action based on what you believe is possible for you, not based on your actual ability. That's why two people with the same potential can end up in completely different realities. One believed in their capacity, the other didn't. Same talent, different belief. And belief always wins. You're not standing still, even when you feel stuck, even when life seems paused. Even when you're in survival mode, you're becoming something. Every day, every thought, every decision, every habit is shaping you. Whether you realize it or not, you're building momentum in a direction. The question is, are you becoming who you were meant to be, or are you drifting into someone you never intended to become? This is how people get stuck, not because of lack of talent or potential, but because they're living inside a belief system that limits them. And the most dangerous part, they don't even know they're doing it. Because a belief, once it's been around long enough, doesn't feel like a belief anymore. It feels like the truth. When your beliefs align with your goals, you take bold, consistent action. You go after the thing. You show up differently. You persist through failure, not because it's easy, but because deep down you believe you're supposed to be there. That belief gives you access to energy, creativity, resilience. On the other hand, if your belief says you don't belong, you'll hesitate, you'll doubt, you'll shrink, and life will mirror that back to you. That's the chain reaction. Thoughts shape beliefs, beliefs shape identity, identity drives action, and action creates results. Change the thought, and you interrupt the entire chain. Start thinking intentionally, feeding your mind with thoughts that reinforce your strength, your value, your direction, and over time you'll shift the core beliefs that shape your life. And when your beliefs change, your behavior follows, not because you force it, but because it feels natural. That's the power of where it all begins with a thought. That's the chain reaction. Thoughts shape beliefs, beliefs shape identity, identity drives action, and action creates results. Change the thought, and you interrupt the entire chain. Start thinking intentionally, feeding your mind with thoughts that reinforce your strength, your value, your direction, and over time you'll shift the core beliefs that shape your life. And when your beliefs change, your behavior follows. Not because you force it, but because it feels natural. That's the power of where it all begins with a thought. The scary part is that most people won't notice what they're becoming until it's already taken root. One day they wake up bitter, discouraged, angry, lost. Not because it happened overnight, but because they weren't paying attention while it was happening, little by little. That's why awareness matters. That's why intentionality is power. You don't need to have it all figured out to move forward. You just need to move with intention. Because every choice is a vote. Every decision is a direction. Every moment is momentum. You don't become strong by accident. You don't become confident by waiting. You don't become fulfilled by chance. You become by design or by default. And if you're not choosing who you're becoming, life will choose for you. It's easy to think that growth only happens when you're actively chasing big goals or achieving something obvious. But the truth is, you're becoming through the ordinary, through the unnoticed, through the small repeated patterns. The way you handle pressure, the way you talk to yourself, the things you tolerate, the people you surround yourself with, those are shaping your character in real time. You don't need a transformation moment to evolve. You're evolving right now. The truth is, your future self isn't waiting at some distant finish line. That version of you is being constructed brick by brick, habit by habit, belief by belief. The way you speak, the energy you carry, the standards you set, all of it contributes to your becoming. So you have to ask yourself, am I becoming more resilient or more reactive? Am I becoming more aligned or more distracted? Am I becoming the kind of person I would trust, respect, the way you show up when no one's watching, the habits you practice when no one's applauding, the thoughts you entertain when no one can hear them. Those are the things that determine who you become. Whether you're building strength or building excuses, building courage or building doubt, you're building something. You are always becoming. The only question is, what are you becoming right now?